when he moved to Philadelphia, he started working as a pharmacist, where during this stint, a child died taking the medication that was dispensed under his name, and then he left town again. So, what is that?
I don't know, but I was really a little scared. I'm not gonna lie, because you're talking about that, and I hear like clickety click.
Yeah, I was like, that kind of creeped me out.
Hello. I was like, woo.
What was that? Viewer discretion is advised. This installment includes discussions about violence and murder that some may find offensive. Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth installment of this still unnamed series we are doing. We like to talk about life insurance, murder, and some infamous cases. Today's case is very, very infamous. Movies were made about him and all his nefarious activities. But before we start, I'd like to state our disclaimer again. Insurance fraud is a serious offense that can result in criminal charges, hefty fines, and imprisonment. It isn't just unethical, it is highly illegal. This includes, but is not limited to, intentional concealment of relevant information, faking death, or providing false documents. This disclaimer serves as a clear statement that any form of dishonesty or fraudulent behavior in the context of life insurance is not only morally reprehensible, but is also subject to legal prosecution. It is imperative to approach life insurance with honesty, integrity, ensuring the system's continued trustworthiness and the financial well-being of policyholders and beneficiaries. Okay.
All right, now that that's out of the way.
All right, today's guest is the co-owner of PuroClean of Wilton Ridgefield and now PuroClean of Stamford in Greenwich. Hi, Jen.
Hi, May. Thank you so much for having me here
Of course.
today.
Thank you for. I know we planned this for a while.
Yes. But in our industry, as you know, there's things that pop up and life gets busy.
Yeah, it does. Bill, congratulations on the Stamford Greenwich one. I know that's very recent. Why don't you tell them just a little bit something about your company?
So my husband and I are essentially in the business of helping restore homes and offices after there's been severe or significant damage or some sort of setback caused by water, fire, mold, or biohazard. So really nothing glamorous, nothing sexy, just the down and dirty stuff that needs to get fixed.
Yeah, and actually, if you guys remember, our office got flooded last year. They were the ones who we called first and also helped our office get back to normal. So, of course, if any emergency comes up, feel free to give them a call. Put their number right here. Caesar's gonna put the number right there. Okay, so thank you for coming in. So to carry on for today's topic, I know you watched the last couple of videos, so you're kind of familiar with the theme, and we've spoken to you about the theme and how it pertains. So I actually was saving this particular person, only because I feel like this person is, I think are you familiar with H.H. Holmes?
I've heard of it, but I don't remember the details.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go over the details with you.
Oh, great.
He is mostly known for building the murder castle in Chicago.
Okay.
Do you remember? Do you know anything of that?
No, you're going to get the real true surprise now.
Okay, so this is, he's known for building the murder castle in Chicago. This castle was like, it's not really a castle, it's just a huge building. This building was a structure with like almost labyrinth hallways. There were shops on the first floor and then small apartments above. Sensationalist reports claim that the spaces featured soundproof rooms, secret passages, stairs that leads to nowhere, doors that open to walls, disorienting maze of hallways and staircases, and the rooms were also allegedly outfitted with trapdoors over chutes that drop into the basement.
Oh boy.
And this basement is where different drums filled with acid, pits of quicklime, and a crematorium.
Wow, it has everything all
Yeah,
mixed into
exactly.
one. So castle, or I don't know what else you would want to call that.
Yeah. So he is obviously used. Are you a fan of horror films?
No, I get really spooked out.
Okay, so this is a lot of horror films. I want to say used him as I don't want to use the word inspiration, but a different word. But basically, they based like horror or haunted houses based on this kind of this building that he's built in Chicago. But because he's a compulsive liar, no one really knows how many murders he's committed. He's confessed to 27.
Oh, that's it.
But only 9 were actually confirmed. But there are allegations that his victim numbers went up to 200. So, but no one really knows.
Oh, wow.
But he is known to be America's first documented serial killer.
Oh, so a classic. Thank you.
Yeah, very classic. The first documented serial killer. So he was born as Herman Webster Mudgett.
Yes, his name now does sound familiar.
He was born in New Hampshire in 1861, so this was still in 1800s. And by most accounts, it seemed that he had a normal childhood. He had 4 siblings. His parents were devout Methodists. Are you familiar with Methodists?
Generally speaking.
So, yeah, they believe in the scripture first and foremost. Mm-hmm. They're committed to sobriety. They don't allow gambling. Have a weekly observance of the Friday fast. So every Friday, I guess, they fast. And they believe in the social gospel and charity work in the community. So Herman was born with a condition that's called strabismus, or commonly known as cross-eyed. And because of this, he got bullied as a kid. When he was writing his autobiography, he said that when he was a kid, he was bullied by a group of altar boys, and they dragged him into a doctor's office and used like this anatomy or a skeleton anatomy to kind of scare him. And since then, he just had like the skeleton was etched into his mind. And some people kind of use this childhood trauma to kind of say why he was this messed up, but a lot of us had childhood trauma and we're not a serial killer. So of course not.
That's a long way to go from one
right
thing to building a mansion with lime and labyrinth hallways and everything else.
Yep. And again, he's a compulsive liar. So goodness. He lied about how many people he killed. No one really knows. So who knows even if he's saying the truth. A lot of the other things that I've read was that his childhood was relatively quiet. So again, who knows? Yes. Eventually, he graduated high school and took on teaching jobs at the age of 17. Then when he was 19, so it was 1880, he met a woman named Clara Lovering and had a family of his own. He had a son named Robert. Then he attended the University of Michigan to study to become a doctor.
And it makes you wonder if that's, his plan, because he's known as being a liar and pathological.
Yeah.
Did it start then? Was it in teaching? Who, all of the people he was in front of, how scary is that to think of?
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I think a lot of the people that knew him when he was a kid, they're just like, what? Nothing is messed up with his family. Like, his family is religious, but they weren't like super strict because there's like 5 of them, Okay. So it was like, it was just normal. Like, and again, it's a small town in New Hampshire. It's not like they were in poverty either. So I don't know. Anyway, so I'll keep going. It's not that I'm saying that if you're in poverty, you'll be a serial killer or something like that. But like a lot of the serial killers who uses life insurance as a motivation seem to go to that excuse.
Oh, that's interesting.
So anyway, so this is where his first known scams happened when he went to college into med school in Michigan.
Okay.
Apparently back then, so back in the 1880s, it was a known illegal activity for the students where they would steal recently buried bodies and sell them to the school as cadavers.
Oh, yikes.
Apparently this was a common way to pay their tuition. So
the fact that, I don't know, that you could go steal a body, dig it up, and be okay with that, and then go resell it,
it takes a lot, right?
yeah. Imagine looking somebody in the eye right after you do that.
Oh gosh.
The type of person, like going home to your family and that's what you just did, and then you're reselling it on top of everything.
And then you're supposed to go to school to become a doctor.
Oh my gosh.
But he actually took it a step further.
Oh, there's more than that. Oh, good. Yay.
So he made up identities or convinced an acquaintance, so like a classmate or something, to fake their death. And then he would desecrate these cadavers and to pass them off as whatever identity it was or a family member, he said. And he promised with whoever he kind of like, whoever his accomplice was, that he was going to split the money. So he would then file a claim for the insurance and split the money with whoever he was. He had multiple accomplices. Oh, wow. And it's speculated that with this scheme, he had made upwards to $20,000, which back then, and equates to $600,000 today.
Oh my gosh.
So crazy. That's how much you could get away with stuff back then.
How much you could get away with, how much he could convince people that this was an acceptable way.
Definitely different times, right? I think in their head it's like, you know, the body is no longer needed, so we'll just use it. But still, like, to disrespect someone's loved one like that.
And to be, I mean, he clearly had issues.
Yeah.
Normal childhood or seemingly so, but to go from that to being able to enroll into medical school, somebody that you like confide in.
Yeah, and obviously he also is very smart to be able to go to medical school to come up with these schemes, but he doesn't seem to have any moral qualms about anything that he's doing.
He's not a person I want to be friends with.
No. I don't even want to know him. Yeah, right. After graduating from medical school, he went to become a school principal in Moores Forks, New York, where there were rumors going around during this stint as a principal about a missing boy where he was last seen with. He denied claims about anything to do with his disappearance, but left one night without so much telling anyone where he went. And he left his apartment, left everything. Then he moved to Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
So not exactly the actions of someone who's not guilty.
Yeah, not at all.
When he moved to Philadelphia, he started working as a pharmacist, where during this stint, a child died taking the medication that was dispensed under his name, and then he left town again. So what is that?
I don't know, but I was really a little scared. I'm not gonna lie, because you're talking about that, and I hear like clickety click.
Yeah, no, I was like, that kind of creeped me out.
Hello. I was like, woo.
What was that? So essentially, for 2 years, he is going town to town to town, filing claims for life insurance, getting money, doing illegal stuff. And people, every time people find out what he's doing, he just ups and leaves. Again, this is like the 1800s, so it's probably hard to find someone back then.
And track him and all of
Right.
that. And he's like reinventing himself with all of his
all the
jobs
time. Exactly. I mean, keep in mind, there was no Social Security back then. There was no federal identification. It was literally just that, right? So in 1884, when he moved to, I'm sorry, not 1884. Oh, sweetie, you're so cute. You want to be part of this?
Yes, this is better having you here.
I know, right?
Stressful. I'm like waiting for something.
Oh my goodness, this is gross. Gimme. Go get it. So once he moved to Chicago, he got a job working at a pharmacy under the alias Dr. Henry H. Holmes. So now this is where H. Holmes gets his name. He changed his name because his previous name, Herman Mudgett, has been just associated with too many things. So
Yeah.
he's trying to hide from people.
And it's a lot easier to do then than it is now. quite
Exactly,
literally.
exactly. So apparently he was a very great employee, very loyal for a couple years, and very hardworking, to the point where the owner of the drugstore said that when she passes away, she's gonna leave the pharmacy to him.
Oh, wow.
That's how great of an employee he was. So for a very long time, it seemed like he was in the straight and narrow.
And I feel like those are the worst type of people, the ones that you really believe in and trust. And with his history, knowing what you know, my skin is crawling.
And maybe when
what
he changed his name, he was like, I'm gonna be a different person.
It could
Right?
be.
Maybe. But
You see the good in people, May.
maybe.
I like it.
But obviously, like, I don't know obviously we don't know how their brains work. But once she passed away, he essentially, I even forgot to mention, he remarried the same year that his wife left. And for this woman, she actually didn't know that he was married. So back then, it was super, super illegal to not get a divorce or get separated from your current wife or husband and then get remarried again. So technically, all the other marriages that he's gonna get married are all illegal.
Well, the fact that he could do that, he could have his wife leave him and then just pop into a new marriage that same year.
I mean, again, it's a different year. It's a different times. But again, it's like he could do that because he's a man. But as a woman, you're not allowed to really get married like 5 times. So he eventually took over the pharmacy. However, Holmes convinced the widow to let him buy the store, which is the pharmacist. The widow soon went missing and was never seen again.
I'm not one for coincidences.
He said that she moved to California, but this couldn't be verified.
Oh.
Crazy, right?
And knowing what you said earlier with the Lyme and everything else, it makes and what he has access to now.
Yeah,
what he's learned to do.
He has access to drugs. He's a doctor and all that stuff.
He's been trained.
Exactly. So now he's the owner of the drugstore, and he now purchased an empty lot across the street. He designed and built a 3-story hotel, which the neighborhood called a castle. During its 1889 construction, Holmes hired and fired several construction crews so that no one would have a clear idea of what he was doing. And this is when he was designing Murder Castle. So no one really knows the exact blueprint of the whole thing.
The fact that he had the mental capacity to think of that beforehand, to hire a crew and then fire them, then hire a crew and then fire them, and then continue to build and have the mindset for what was to come.
Right, but like even nowadays where people still do that, but obviously not murder in mind, they just don't want people to know like their layout of the home. But like again, it's like he's obviously very smart and very calculating, but it's very scary that he doesn't, being raised religious and all that stuff didn't help him one bit.
No, it just makes you wonder even more with being a teacher, then going into the medical profession, all professions that you would think would want to help people, and then you know what he's doing in the background.
That is crazy.
Both in his home with his wives and
with
all the people who've gone missing so far, and town to town.
I didn't even think about like being a teacher and then being a doctor and then like all that stuff. Like, you're right. Like, to be able to be one of those, being a pharmacist, like he's always in service to people.
That's it. All of the professions he's chosen.
Crazy. So finally, the construction was finished in 1891. He then placed ads in newspapers everywhere, offering jobs for young women, and advertised the place as a lodging, as a hotel. He also placed ads presenting himself as a wealthy man looking for a wife, which is like a Tinder back then.
Good old scene. Some things never change.
Right. And essentially he placed all his, if you're back in the 1800s, if you're a young woman or if you're a widow or if you're a single mom, you see this ad like, hey, I just built this huge hotel looking for employees.
It gives you hope. It gives you a possibility.
And a lot of people around the country traveled to this to Chicago to just have an employment. So he took advantage of that, obviously. All of Holmes's employees, hotel guests, fiancés, and wives, they were all required to have life insurance policies where he was listed as the beneficiary.
How do you convince somebody to even do that? You know what I mean? Like
he must have been very full of charisma.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Literally, in order to get a person to stay with you, you know what I mean, as they're traveling, you have to be just so charismatic, as you were saying.
And probably also like because he was smart. I was like, oh, it's just like nothing. Maybe just sign this in case something happens to you or something like that. But like, I feel like back then people were very trusting.
Yes.
I mean,
and a pharmacist, and he probably told of being, you know what I mean? Like
that
he
is
was
true.
known, he could connect with people in all of those ways.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you trust a teacher, you trust an administrator, principal, or a doctor, whoever. Those are all people you trust. So when they're saying, oh my gosh, this is like,
is it giving you trust issues?
I'm like, oh, don't trust.
Oh my gosh. So he was very generous, and he said, I'll pay the premiums. I'm very generous of him.
So kind of him.
He will pay the premiums as long as he's listed as a beneficiary, like one of. So obviously some people were like, no, what's happening? So he would get like, I don't know, like 40% or 20%, and then the husbands would get whatever. In any case, most of his fiancés and wives would suddenly disappear, as did many of his employees and guests. People in the neighborhood eventually reported that they saw many women enter the castle but would never see them exit. So, again, but it's also like very sensationalized, I want to say, because a lot of these reports happened after, they caught him, and a lot of people are saying, oh my God, yeah. So, because of his abusive tendencies for his fiancés or wives, maybe they just up and ran away like his first wife, Clara. Or maybe he did kill them. Who knows?
I don't know. I think the not knowing is worse in so many ways. And the fact that all of these people go in there and they never leave. You don't know what happened to any of them.
Exactly. And it's really sad too, because a lot of these women, again, it's different times, had no one looking for them. So either they were like from a broken family, or they were either immigrants looking for a new life, and no one was looking for them because no one knew they were missing. So that was very sad. Okay, so back in 1893, there used to be in Chicago, they hosted the World's Fair, which is like everyone from the world comes in and visit what's the new technology and stuff like that, which is, I think that was one of the reasons why he did build that house, that building, because he was thinking ahead
to the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. It was a cultural and social event to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Columbus's discovery of America. The event was scheduled from May to October.
Okay.
Attracted millions of people around the world, and these people were wealthy. Obviously, they have a chance to travel. And when he heard about this World's Fair, he looked at it as an opportunity. He knew many visitors would be searching for lodging, and believed many of them would be women whom he could easily seduce into staying at his hotel. After being lured into a hotel, many of these out-of-town visitors would never be seen again.
Well, you have to think of like travel back then.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't as safe as it is now.
Yeah.
It's not as reliable. So many different ways to get there. But if nobody's looking for you and you go here.
I don't think, because everyone traveled by ship. That would take like weeks.
And, even like railroad or however they were getting around, it doesn't matter. If people aren't tracking them, it's not like with an iPhone, you have an app to track somebody.
Yeah.
I would do that.
But nowadays, right? No, but like that's what me and my sister have, that if we would like hang out or something, or if we would just check on each other's locations like every weekend, making sure she's fine, making sure I'm fine. That, and then like, you know, we would tell each other, these are the places where I'm gonna be in. If you see that I'm all of a sudden in like Indiana, please call the cops, kind of thing.
Seriously.
You know, right?
Oh yeah, I do the same thing.
Like, so that's what it is now. But back then it was like, again, everyone is so trusting and very, I don't know. I mean, if you don't expect to go hotel and die, you know.
No, who would?
So
you're going to the World's Fair. It's supposed to be a grand
right.
time, or wherever you're traveling to.
Exactly. The building had over 100 rooms. Some of these rooms were soundproof and contained gas lines so that Holmes could asphyxiate his guests whenever he felt like it. Throughout the building, there were trap doors, like I mentioned, peepholes, stairways that led to Norway. Led to nowhere, not Norway.
Not like a secret escape room.
Right.
Just like,
welcome to Norway.
If that were the case, I don't know.
I know.
More people would go.
Yeah, I know. It's like nowhere. I meant to say nowhere. So what he would do is, once he would asphyxiate his victims, he would send the bodies back to the basement, and that's where he would either sell them to medical schools or, you know, put them in the acid vats.
But the fact that he could do that, you know what I mean, and separate himself and then go convince more people to stay there,
yeah,
and to become part of this, whether his wife, like one of his wives. Or,
and my thing is, like, insurance companies are not like, wait a minute, why is this dude in like 500 people's beneficiaries?
Yeah.
And again, back then it wasn't really like you have to have like a tick, like an ABC, to be able to qualify in order for. No, they just literally took out life insurance. As long as you pay, you have life insurance.
And so they would just give the money,
right,
without.
It wasn't like nowadays where we have to check that you're actually a person, you're actually alive. Now we have Social Security, so they can verify that you work. You can verify, essentially, I hate to like to say, but your insurability. Like they just.
That's probably why they do all that now, because of events like this. And he's not the only one, because all of your other shows show this, which is crazy.
But it's crazy. It gets crazier and crazier. But again, back then, there wasn't any social media, and nowadays people post stuff online and be kind of stupid about their crimes. So had they not posted it, they would have gotten away with it. But because thankfully they don't think right, obviously, because they already committed insurance fraud, then they get caught.
Yeah, down the road, or they say it to a person and they're taping and they don't know.
Yeah, it's really nuts. So through it all, Holmes traveled throughout the U.S. cities committing insurance scams with his accomplice, Benjamin Pittizel. I'm just going to call him Benjamin. So this is his partner in crime for the longest time. Okay, so after the World's Fair, the economy went down. Obviously, it went up, and then all these people are coming in and spending money, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So the economy was down for Chicago. He then left his castle and moved to Texas, where he stole horses.
Oh, that I didn't see coming.
I don't know this. And he sold them. I don't know. Back then, like, horses, they used horses to like for racing. No, racing and gambling and transportation. But anyway, he made a fortune. Okay. He was arrested for this and sent to jail.
So for this, he gets arrested.
Right. Right.
Oh, wow.
And then when he was in jail, he thought of a new insurance scam to fake his own death.
Oh, good. He had good time to think.
And then his jailmate back then, he said, I'll give you $500 in exchange for a lawyer that could help me if any issues come up, essentially to like fake papers and stuff like that. And he would take out an insurance policy on his own for $10,000 fake his death, and then he'll give him
Then-
like $2,000 or something like that. And then once Holmes was released from jail, he attempted this plan, but the insurance company saw so many red flags and actually didn't pay out his the claim.
Okay.
Whoever, I think it was Benjamin who tried to file a claim, because again, stupidly they'd been doing. I maybe because they thought that they kept doing this over and over, they would get away with it more, but the body didn't match Holmes. So it's like, what is this?
Yeah, so well, that's interesting.
Right.
They were either getting sloppy or lazy or something happened there.
And then once he attempted to do a similar plan, but with Benjamin. So he asked Benjamin to fake his own death. They would steal a cadaver from the body and pretend it was Benjamin. And then he would give him money. Benjamin has a wife and 3 kids. The wife is in on this plan, so kind of like, just so you know, Benjamin is gonna be missing for a couple months, but you just kind of lay low and stuff like that, so that no one's gonna be suspicious. So that was the story.
It's crazy. His manipulation of people to get them to do that, a wife and family to be in on this.
Yeah, it's nuts. But again, he was one-upping Benjamin because he actually killed him for real.
Oh my. I was not expecting that. I thought like something else was going to happen.
No.
That they would continue to work, but
nope.
Oh my gosh. Now,
psychopaths.
Really?
Sociopathic. Oh my.
Especially because he was so supportive of him for all those years. Like
yeah.
They did so many things together
right.
that
so
I felt
he probably thought that this is my person.
Yeah.
My crime in person.
Yeah,
I don't
literally. Like, I don't know how you determine that, but to be able to do all of those things for so many years together and then turn around and kill.
So he took the money himself.
Oh my gosh.
Then the person, his jail cell, was mad at him because he didn't get paid. He's like, you didn't pay me the amount you said you were going to pay me. So he's mad that Holmes stiffed him. And because of that, he called the cops and told the cops of the scheme that he planned. So the police tracked Holmes, finally catching up to him in Boston, where they arrested him and held him on outstanding warrant for the Texas, where he was stealing horses. And at the time of his arrest, he appeared as if he was prepared to flee the country. And then, because he was getting, like, cops were getting suspicious of him, looks like he's going to be leaving. And then it was actually the Fidelity Mutual Insurance Company. They enlisted the Pinkerton detectives, which is like a private detectives back then. They were the ones who actually found where he was, like, we're investigating all this insurance fraud kind of thing. Because the jailmate also called the insurance company, and of course the insurance company was like, okay, this dude stole like thousands of dollars for every insurance companies. We have to stop him. But it's crazy that it was them who caught him and not the actual cops.
I was thinking, it's unbelievable to me that the power, like, he's so manipulating, right? But then at the same time, instead of the cops or a missing person or something like that, it was
the horses.
You know what I mean? The horses that
it was
really
the horses.
set up the flag.
Yeah.
And then now
the insurance company.
Yeah.
It's really nuts how much he could have, or he could have gotten away with it.
So this is why insurance is so important. Yeah. To stop serial killers. Forget everything else.
It's like, yeah, right? But it's just like, it's because honestly, the company was like, this is like 3 red flags. I read with another biography that some people did report missing people, like a sister or something, but the cops really didn't look into it, because he will just say he moved to California, or like, oh, she was unhappy with her employment here, so they moved somewhere else. So they wouldn't believe a woman's word.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And plus, he was an upstanding doctor, a pharmacist, helping the community.
In every area that he moved to,
Right.
did something that was outstanding and a person that you would find so trustworthy.
Yeah, and his name was no longer Herman Mudgett. He was Dr. H. Holmes. So that carried weight, you know? So finally, once he got arrested, the wife of Benjamin actually came forward and also told them about what happened with Benjamin, because it was like, I think, 8 months.
Okay.
She hasn't heard from her husband, and initially it was like letters, like, I'm okay, I'm just hiding here, and then Holmes got lazy. It stopped. And the saddest part of this is, he also gave Holmes their 3 kids to watch over. So he doing like whatever it is, he unfortunately killed all 3 of them. And when he was running away from cops, kind of like he treated them like dead weight. At this point, Benjamin's wife was like, just give me my kids, just give me my kids.
I can't even imagine.
And then he was like, okay, they're on their way, and then never having them. So unfortunately, they eventually found one of the kids' body in Indianapolis, and that was one of the 9 confirmed. The other 2, back then there was no DNA, so they don't know, but they found other bodies in the castle. So they suspected, but they can't really confirm.
It's unbelievable that the one murder is the one that he's caught on.
Yeah.
And they say 9 that he's
officially found in the castle.
But 200, there's whatever number you started with.
And they said it was, he confessed to 27. The reason why a lot of people don't know if it's real or not is because the people he said that he killed, there was like, I think 3 or 4 people who said, oh yes, I killed them, they found them. So he didn't kill them, but he was like, why would you say you killed them, kind of thing. So
it makes you wonder, does he just not remember the people that he killed?
Probably.
There's so many between like the World Fair and all the places he traveled to that he didn't even know who they were.
I don't think he even sees them as people. He just sees them as like a way to make money.
Literally. Like, just person or body after body, it's just selling it.
And of course also the media back then, because it was, very exciting news, just like nowadays. Oh, sorry, I thought it fell on Choto. Where this doctor, I mean, we have series called Dr. Death nowadays.
Yes.
Which is a good series, but I'm not knocking them down. But again, it's just like, it's a good doctor who changed his name, who was upstanding individual, but you scam after scam after scam to get money. It's like, what do you need the money for?
Yeah, at this point. Money, but like I think of all of the shows. I'm not into horror because it's scary, but I think of all of the shows where their premises come from this.
Yeah, because this genuinely happened. It's super scary. So eventually, they did burn down that castle, that building. But in that same spot is the U.S. Post Office.
Stop it.
Yeah.
How do you rebuild on that?
Like, I mean, they have to use the land,
no.
but
no, you don't. Knowing what's happened there, how do you?
I know.
How can you use that land?
Yeah, but again, it's a lot of
like, imagine walking over that.
You'll always think about that.
I would.
Yeah,
you
like
would feel it.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, my dog hates that spot." Like, there's a lot of like stories that came after it. There was a lot of Holmes curse that happened with like the detective that found him. The people that reported him apparently were all died within like 10 years of like either committing suicide, or they just found them dying in a gruesome death. And a lot of people said, "Oh my God, that's Holmes hunting them to their death." But at the same time, it's like it was the 1800s.
Yeah, but then why are those things happening? You know what I mean? To this day, there's just so much darkness associated with him.
They probably should have blessed the area or something.
I don't know. That's not an area. I've been to Chicago, but now I'm like, I have to look this up and make sure I never cross over there.
But it's so sad, because as much as we know whatever the American victims that he has, I don't even want to think the amount of victims he did. He's murdered from the World's Fair.
Yeah, because there's no way. Like, how do you track that? How do you figure out any of that now that they've burned it down and rebuilt over it?
Yeah, and they did say, like, I don't know, like, I just don't understand why he was never investigated as when people were reporting them missing, because sisters or brothers or family members like, hey, the last time I spoke to my sister was when she was in this she was working as a maid in this place. I've never heard from her again. Can you please check in? And the cops were like, oh yeah, we did, but they said the owner said that he left, or she left.
It makes you wonder what it would be like to have a conversation even with him. If the police came and asked me a question, I'd freak out, right?
Right.
But like, for him, they come and they do a wellness check or whatever they called it then, and
yeah, it was crazy. But like, again, it was like, this person, this is how much of a hold he had. He with the many wives that he had, he fell in love with a maid. This maid, but again, he was a womanizer. This maid had a daughter and a husband, and he was like, I love you so much, I'm going to employ your husband as an like a handyman in the building. And back then, because they needed money, the husband was like, okay, fine, let's just do it. Like, you know, nothing is happening. It wasn't returned, that little crush of his. But finally, like, I don't know what had happened, but they eventually had a relationship, and the husband was still okay with it. Because of that, you know, I have a daughter and we need a roof above our heads, and I have a job.
I can't even imagine.
Right, to think about that. And then he killed them all. In the end, he was one of the three were one of the 9 bodies that they found.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Just the way he like draws you in. He gets entire families and convinces them of things like that. Could you even imagine?
And he actually was a genuine stepfather to the daughter. Like, he would buy her like gifts and stuff like that. I don't know. I really think that he was just playing a part, kind of how he thought that maybe would go into good graces, because again, life insurance taken out on all of them.
But he's convinced all of these people, every single person to sign away.
Yeah, and that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
It's unbelievable.
It is. It really is, and and you're right. It's because of him doing all of this that slowly it's gotten so much difficult, rightfully so, to get life insurance policies.
But it makes you happy in the sense, because you don't want people being able to go state to state, build these crazy palaces or mansions or whatever you want to call it with ease, and then leave questions behind, and then something non-related, like horses. Then I don't know what it would be today. I was trying to think of something that you would, a parking ticket or something else that gets you. It's caught. Crazy. It's unbelievable, but it makes you happy that
it makes
an
you
insurance
happy.
Company asks you those
right?
questions.
But then also it makes me sad that, like, well, I have to wait for the insurance company to investigate my death to say, hey, wait a minute. It's kind of like it's sad, right? Because the insurance company was like, wait a minute, we've given this guy like thousands of our money, something is going on. Like, for them to look into them losing money to investigate this one person, and because of this, that's the only reason why cops were involved. And again, back then, I you know,
time after time,
it's
he's
just
reinventing himself.
Right.
He's a doctor. It's not the same person, because who was?
He was a principal. He was a teacher.
You don't.
He was stealing horses.
Yeah. These are. if you were talking to somebody, you would never imagine that that would be the same person.
Yeah.
So why would it raise flags?
Right.
But
right.
yet,
And then also, like, detectives didn't have the records of insurance policies. Like, I feel like as the public, you'd think that would raise flags for cops, but they don't have the same system. They, and it's the 1800s where cowboys existed. I'm sure they had, like, different things like going on, and the railroad system wasn't really completed. Like, it's just a different world back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Even newspapers and how people got information,
Yeah.
It wasn't instantaneous at your fingertips. So you wouldn't know that teacher that you trust just was
a murderer.
a murderer somewhere else with a totally different profession.
But yeah, so that's the story for the day.
Oh my gosh, Meg. Yikes.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me here today, I think, but I'm going to look around outside before I do anything else.
And just be like, it's just so scary. I'm like, I think when I first heard of him, there was actually, I watched a movie, I think it was a TV show back in the early 2000s. It was loosely based around the murder castle, and I was like, loosely based, like that was so scary because they made it into like a ghost thing more than a real person thing. So I looked into it, and I was like, what? Like, the first time I read it, I was like, that's crazy. This person is crazy. Like, and back then they didn't have a name for it. Like, serial killer, the term serial killer didn't really like became like a term until like, I believe, the 70s. And because he didn't have one type of victim, right? So, like, I know you said you watch the SVUs, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So whenever that comes, they always talk about, usually there's like, they have like a victim type. And he did it because all he wants is the money. Like, whether you're a woman, your grandma, your husband, exactly. It doesn't matter. As long as you're insurable, then you're signing this paper.
It's just unbelievable. I feel like he had so many different, I don't know, stories that were written off of him,
and I feel like if I don't know, he's just a very different, obviously, person. Like, the term screw loose in his head doesn't even apply to him. No. Is way out there. To be able, like you said, to be, no doubt he's helped a lot of people, being a doctor.
You hope.
Being a principal. Like, he's helped tons of them. But the fact that he can also go on the other side and just use them and kill them is crazy.
It was. Because when you're in either of those professions, you gain the trust of everybody that comes into your room or your office or wherever you are to look you in the eye. But even his best friend and his wife.
I don't think he even thinks of him as his best friend.
No.
I think Benjamin thought of him as his best friend, but I don't think Holmes ever looked at him.
It was just all like,
it was more like,
his grand plan.
I don't know. I mean, during his trial, he was saying that I cannot, something along the lines of like, he can't stop himself from committing murder because it's like telling a poet to stop making poems. So obviously something is very wrong with this dude.
I was gonna say the fact that
like he knew it was wrong,
but it didn't stop him.
No.
The fact that he could continue to do it and separate himself and convince people to.
He got rid of bodies, and I know I don't like to like really talk about how he did that, but online there's a lot of stories. But to do that and be, again,
seen as normal in your
even
community.
more than normal is like
Trusted.
helpful, right?
Yes, that was your.
It's very jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you kind of like it did develop like trust issues. I'm not gonna lie when I was reading all of his stuff, but I mean, I feel like that's why I like this kind of stuff too, is just because
It makes your heart race.
No.
Right? Should I be scared? Are you trying to?
I think it just gives me it's like, it's very dark to say this, but obviously insurance works because you get paid for all of this, but it works a little too well, and so that's why they had to put all this stops. But
For insurance.
but
At the same time, that makes me feel better
right,
because somebody
is
will
looking
have
out for me.
as long as I have it, though.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. But it's still, it's like, I don't know. It's like back then, because of you always think about now how, like, in our modern society, how everyone says, oh, we're like, we're not really a community, like, because we're like kind of like so far apart from each other. But even if you think about back then, where there was no technology, what we have now, you can say the same thing, and yet they were like getting away with murders. I mean, it was just H.H. Holmes that he got away with it. It is super scary.
The trauma, the tragedy.
But thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry for
Almost
traumatizing you.
I feel like I don't want to say thank you for this, but you know.
I'm sorry for the trauma.
I know. I'm going outside now. I have all these thoughts of places that we travel to. Make sure I ask all these questions.
Yeah. Make sure you check in on someone. Hey, I'm gonna be here tonight. Yeah.
That's it.
Always. But I do feel also like as women, we always do that anyway.
It's true.
Yeah. So, like, it's always a checkbox in our thing. Like, I'm gonna go now. Like, text me when you're home.
That's
it.
it.
Like, yeah, exactly.
But this is why.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It is. It actually genuinely is. Make sure that everyone's home safely. Then I generally don't sleep until I hear from all of my friends. Even though it's like 4:00 in the morning, I'm like, are you home? And they're like, sorry, I passed out. I'm like, okay, good.
But I feel like that's the
Yeah.
now expectation. You need to know that. You
Yeah.
need to know people have made it to, but maybe it's because we've heard these stories.
Most likely. Very much likely.
Yeah. So in the back of our minds, we're all
Yeah.
thinking this, but
Yeah. But yeah.
well, I appreciate you inviting me on.
Of
today.
course.
It was a pleasure.
We'll do it again sometime. Just
Definitely.
But maybe like a different story this time. Maybe a lighthearted story this time.
Yes, please. A little lighter.
I know. But all right. Thank you guys for the 4th installment. Did I say 4th? But anyways, have a good day. Bye. Like, have a good day.
Bye. We just talked about murder. Bye.
Bye.
Have a pleasant one. That was so lovely.
Don't get nightmares.